And welcome to Off the Tee. My name is Chris Exusion. You can find me at Chris Ebom on Twitter. And we got a special guest today. For the reins of ESPN, David Behrman, the deputy editor of sports betting, ESPN Chalk. He does it all, golf, you name it. He's big on college football as well. He's got his golf column coming up this tomorrow morning, I believe, and then along with his college football preview with his SEC picks. But we're here for the golf right now, and the playoffs are right here right now, and it's getting really exciting. The season just ended. It's playoff time. And, David, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me. Good intro. And I tell you what, I watched that video intro you just had, and that was pretty awesome. You saw, if I saw correctly, you showed one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in person and one of the most disappointing moments I've ever seen in person. Obviously, the greatest would be Tiger Woods' putt to tie and force the 18-hole playoff. Got the flag right up there from when I
see it right there. Nice.
And I'm pretty sure I saw the Tom Watson missed putt at Turnberry that wound up losing in a playoff. I think that's what you showed.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been the greatest moment in sports history. I can tell you of the many, many years of working in production trucks at ESPN. Everybody at that moment when Tom Watson stood over that putt was standing up in the trailer and in the truck. Nobody was saying a word. Mike Tirico let it play out as it was, dead silence. And when he missed that putt, it was like a collective groan. And there were some tears. There were some tears in the truck because you're talking about a 59-year-old winning the Open Championship at Turnberry. And obviously it didn't happen, but it was a hell of a week to do it. And we got lucky enough to actually play the next morning right there. And I tried to recreate it, and I did hit that putt, but that's for another day.
Well, I love it regardless, nonetheless. But, there's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of ups and downs when it comes to the golf betting world. And we had a couple winners from last week. Not one of our best weeks overall, but, still catching some winners. Brendan Todd, I kind of, made a bet that wasn't a big boom bet. I know everyone was on the Brendan Todd train last week because of his really good driving and his putting, being accurate off the tee and everything. I played him top 40 plus 160. And Brian Stewart, I was really, really bullish on him. I mean, I had 171 on him to win. I mean, I usually don't do that. I talked about that last week, but we cashed in with the top 20 for 4-1. So anytime you can get 4-1 on your money with the top 20 is pretty big. So those were some good ones there. Cleared up some ground from the other bets and everything. But what did you feel like was some of the big turning points of last week's tournament?
I also came out in the positive last week, and it was a little collection of a lot. I had Webb Simpson to win and top 10, and Webb had a good back nine on Sunday to cash us that top 10. Obviously, he had been in contention all week before the triple bogey late on Saturday made it a little bit of a sweat. So to me, that was automatic. That was my biggest bet of the week was Webb Simpson top 10, just the course, the way he plays. So we cashed in on that. I had Siwoo Kim at 50-1 to win it all. It got to the playoff, which enabled me to throw some live shots out there on Kevin Kisner. So we bet him at 4-1 when the playoffs started. I had a piece of Adam Scott from earlier in the week. So when you look at the 16 playoff, to be able to have Siwoo at 50, I believe I had Adam Scott at about 8-1 live at some point on Saturday and played Kisner 4-1 just when the playoffs started. I was able to, I thought Scott was going to win it, and then Kisner won it. But overall, it was a winning week. I think I hit 3 of my 5 head-to-head tourney matchups. Did pretty well during the week matchups day to day. And then in daily fantasy, I won my double up and won a couple of work tournaments that I'm in with guys at work. So overall, it was anytime you're seeing green is good. So
absolutely. No, it lived another day, of course. So that's always important. The matchups as far as the week goes, I had a pop-up tee time. I believe it was either Thursday. I believe it was Friday. End up hitting my top play with Denny McCarthy over Aaron Wise. I was fortunate enough to get a plus 5 on one hole from Aaron Wise, but still, you got to be on the right side of luck at these points. But everything's good. We're still surviving. We're still making that green, so I'm very happy about that as well. But now it's playoff time, and we're at Liberty National. Par 71, 7,353 yards, bent grass greens. When I look at this course, the comp courses I see are like Bay Hill, TPC Scottsdale, Shadow Creek. But the stats I feel like are going to be the most important when it comes to find the right golfers is par 4 scoring, 450 to 500 yards, 200 plus approach shots. So you got to be really good with those long irons. The 175 to 200 approach shots, those are also important as well. These are all percentage shots that these guys are going to be looking at when it comes down to it. And then, bent grass green putting, of course. And then recent form with the tee to green, I feel like it's going to be important because these guys, this is the run. This is the quick sprint. This is what's going on here. And I feel like the real recent form is going to really benefit these guys in the long run.
Yeah, this is an interesting course. Obviously, Liberty National is not a course that they play every single year like some of these other events. It rotates. The Northern Trust rotated around all of the New York area before alternating between TPC Boston, Liberty National, and whatnot. Played there in 03, 09, 09, 13, and most recently 2019. You had mentioned the long irons, and I think that's a good point because all three winners from 9, 13, and 19 all were in the top 6 in greens and regulation that week during the week. So hitting the greens, keeping them on there, and not giving up shots while being in the trap or the rough is important. Guys that have the iron shots. You mentioned the bent grass. It is similar to Shadow Creek. Another course that had been brought up in some of the comps is St. George's over in England. You don't hear that a lot, that a course comps out to an Open Championship course, but that Open Championship course was a little different than most. With a lot of the hazards, and that's what you're going to get. And it's funny, you look at this course and you read a little bit of history and where it is on a landfill across from the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. They weren't allowed to dig. They had to build up. They couldn't go down. So because they had to build up, a lot of it is actually flat because you couldn't go too high. You're not going to build mountains out there. So the course is actually very similar to what you would see down in Florida. So you got wind like you have in Florida. You have traps. You have water. You have some dog legs here or there. Every single course will play to the advantage of the long hitter if you're accurate. We always talk about what courses are advantageous to a Bryson DeChambeau. If he hits the fairway, every course in America is advantageous to a guy who hits it 380 yards. But there are some tight turns and fairways and some waters that come into play around certain drivable shots. So it really is accuracy more than distance off the tee. So I'm looking at guys who are going to hit the fairway, which will enable them not only to hit the fairway, but at the right angles that enable them to hit the greens. Because this is not your typical course where you're just going to drive it as far as you can and then throw an iron to the green. You got to have the right angle. You'll get blocked out by trees, water, etc. So guys who are really good with their irons and really good on bent grass will be the theme that you'll see with some of the plays that I'll have for you tonight, and that'll be in the column that you mentioned tomorrow morning.
All right, awesome. So when we're talking about distance with this course, do you think some of these guys are going to actually be able to cut through this course? Do you think there's a lot of trees that are going to deter from that, or do you think guys are going to try and cut up this course and like kind of cut through for the most part?
There are going to be guys like Bryson who are going to try to cut through it, but there's water placed in certain locations that make it high risk, high reward. There are cut throughs with trees and whatnot where they have it designed where it's not going to be that easy to do it. But that hasn't stopped guys like Bryson before. He's a bomber's bomber. Adam Scott won here a couple of years ago. He's a long hitter. Patrick Reed won here 2 years ago. He's not a long hitter. He's more of an accurate hitter who has a really great short game. So I don't think this course identifies any one particular advantage because he's only been played 2 or 3. For the most part, these guys have only played it once. There are some guys who played it 19 and 13, probably about a third of the field have played it twice. And then you have those that we'll get to that played it on the President's Cup in 2017 for Team USA. That includes Patrick Reed and others who played it very well then when the USA went on to beat, Team World in the President's Cup. So there are players who will have the advantage, but if you look across the 3 winners and the runners up, it really comes down to guys who hit the greens and hit the greens often.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got our first question over here from Adam. He says, what do you guys think of Jon Rahm, Paul Casey, and Jordan Spieth? I'm going to start off here. I don't hate anyone ever taking Jon Rahm. Guy's been a top 10 machine. If you're more than happy to, not take those big odds with him, I'm all for that. I feel like he's kind of a live bet kind of guy. If you're able to get him like kind of slowed down a little bit, because he's a guy that can really heat up with his irons. He's been super accurate and the driver's been excellent. Paul Casey, on the other hand, he's been fantastic. He's been in the greens practically in all strokes gain categories. At the WGC, he was a little bit in the negative with strokes gain off the tee. But overall, the approach shot has been absolutely locked in, which you're going to need here as well. I feel like he's a good top 20 kind of play kind of guy. And then in this kind of field, you can probably get some good value with him there. And then Jordan Spieth, He's a guy that's kind of just built for this course at this point. A little spoiler alert anyway. His number isn't all that great for his actual number. If you're looking for like a little exotic bet, I actually like him for bogey free first round for 6-1. He was very close a couple weeks ago. He hit one in the water when he was absolutely just striping it everywhere and then pretty much scrambling like a madman like he always does, because I feel like he's always better in the rough stuff than he is on the fairway, because I think it's too easy for him. Some guys, they love that challenge, and he's that kind of guy, and he puts unbelievably on bent grass. That's by far his best putting surface. So we know how good he is as a putter, and if he's going to be that good of a putter, I really like him for a bogey-free first round. So that's kind of where I'm taking him there.
Very good question, Adam, and I'll break down all three very similar to what Chris just did with Jon Rahm. I'm not going to play him for the price that he's at. I like what you just said, Chris, about playing him live. To me, there's really no value in taking a guy at single digits, 8.5, 8-1, 9-1. No doubt in my mind, Jon Rahm can win this, and he can win it going away. So I don't fault anybody for playing Rahm. I'm probably going to play him in some matchups, and if I can find a lineup to throw him in for DFS, it'll be tough because you got to find a lot of 6,000s if you're going to play Jon Rahm. But what Chris said is absolutely right. I would look at Rahm to maybe, if he does stumble early and he's, back the leaders, you can get him at 20, 25-1 as opposed to putting all your eggs in an 8-1 basket, which I really don't advise to do. But again, if you're looking to pick a winner, Rahm could do it. I would probably play Rahm at a top 10, close to even money, a little bit minus money instead of playing him to win. As far as Paul Casey's concerned, I love Paul Casey. I'm one of the biggest fans on the planet of Paul Casey. Met him a couple of times. Great dude. He's never played this course. And you think about it, Paul Casey's never played Liberty National. Paul Casey's never played Liberty National. Now, that doesn't mean he can't win. Colin Morikawa's went on 5 PGA Tour wins, and he hadn't played any of those 5 courses before. Casey is a strong iron player, a good wind player, a good bent grass player, absolutely could win. I just have a hard time taking anybody when they've never played the course before. I am going to mix and match him in there a couple of lineups because this is the type of course that Paul Casey can and will win on. It's just a matter of the fact that he's never played it before. As far as Jordan Spieth, when I was writing the column last night, my last pick came down to Spieth or McIlroy. I looked at them both, and I said, okay, they both finished identical the 2 times they played it. They both finished T9 one year, and T6 one year and T19 the other time at Liberty National. So they both have the exact same results here. I eventually, after tearing myself apart trying to figure out which one I was going to play, for the column, I went ahead and took McIlroy to win because of the way McIlroy plays in the playoffs as a whole. McIlroy has been a playoff machine, five FedEx Cup playoff wins, second most all time to Dustin Johnson. And McIlroy also has the most money won all time in these events. And this is when he shines. And Rory really isn't that far away from what we expect Rory to do. Sure, he hasn't won a major in 7 years. But if you look what he's done at the last couple of majors, he's played very well. He played well at the Olympics. He played well at the WGC. Not taking anything away from Jordan. I'm actually going to be playing Jordan in top 10s and top 20s. But you said it a few minutes ago. He loves spraying the ball, which at this type of course will prevent him from hitting those greens. Now, if he gets near the greens, the guy's one of the best scramblers on the planet and can hit putts from all over the place. Great on bent grass. My concern with Jordan, and if you go back and read the columns over the past 6 to 8 months, I take Jordan on courses where you can afford to miss. Augusta's one of them. And I fade it. The British Open at Royal St. George's, I took Jordan to win, and he was right there on Sunday. More open. This is a comparable course to St. George's, so I'm not against the play. Jordan's obviously played well here. But courses that penalize you for missing fairways, like every U.S. Open course on the planet, is where I don't play
high
Jordan.
roughs.
High roughs. I am kind of in between with Spieth here, which is why I'm going to play him in probably top 10s and 20s and not to win. But I do think he's a very, very viable contender this week. I just went McIlroy instead for the reasons I just stated.
Absolutely. So what was the number you were looking at for Rory anyway?
Rory, I got, I believe, stand by, 22-1 to win, and top 10 finish at plus 250 is what I grabbed yesterday. Rory's season, Chris, is we're going to look back years from now and look at this season and say, was it good or was it bad? Because he's had a little bit of both. He had a great start to the season where 6 of his first 10 worldwide events were top 10 finishes, which included, I know it's a weird year, but included top 10 finishes at the U.S. Open of last year, this year, and the Masters of last year, this year in November. So he got off to a good start. but then he missed the cut badly at the Players Championship, missed the cut at the 2021 Masters, didn't get at a pool play at the World Golf Championship, and had a horrible PGA Championship. So, like, what is wrong with Rory? Wins Wells Fargo. He's back. Well, not so much. Played awful the PGA a week later. Did finish T12 at St. Jude's. Almost won the bronze medal. He's kind of there, but he's not there. But he's 8th in tee to green, and he's 12th in overall shots gained. You don't go 8th in tee to green if you're terrible. So he has tinkered. He tried the Bryson route, switch this, switch that. He's close. And what I like about Rory this week is, like I said, he's awesome in the FedEx Cup playoffs, all-time money leader, 5 wins, second most, has played well here, T6 and T19, and he has the opportunity to control the narrative himself as to what we look back on this season. Is it a lost season because he only has 1 win and didn't win a major? Or is it Rory McIlroy, 3-time FedEx Cup champion, which he can do?
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that I like about Rory is he's sitting at about 26th in the FedEx Cup rankings. That's safely into the BMW, but not safely into the Tour Championship. And these guys have their eyes on the Tour Championship. He's got to do well to at least take some pressure off himself next week. Only one other guy has won this FedEx Cup twice. That's Tiger Woods. I think Rory turns it on, and I actually like him to win this week.
Yeah, and you talk about the Wells Fargo when he won that, he was in that 20-1 range and he cashed in. That was a pretty wild number for him in such a weird field because some of these golfers don't have the same expectations as other golfers. The DJs, the Rorys, they could have great, if they had these kind of seasons come for other golfers, we'd be like, oh my gosh, it's an incredible year. But these guys are on a different pedestal. Totally understand. And the thing you brought up with the Olympics, he finished 4th. That was kind of actually a weird situation because he kind of just went to the Olympics just to go to the Olympics. There wasn't much motivation. But as he was starting to play better and taking the whole Olympic field, he just pretty much started to step his game up. And now he already has this motivation for the FedEx Cup that he's already in the 20s in that spot. And now he can make a huge move if he wins this right here. Like, this is a big motivation for Rory, and that's extra scary. And honestly, his putter's been back and forth. I mean, he lost at St. Jude. He lost 3.5 strokes putting. But then the week before that, the Olympics, he gained 3.5 strokes gained, for putting. So it's like heckle, it's back and forth, it's both ways with it. So you don't know which one you're going to get. But if his putter is on, he's going to be really dangerous here. So, I mean, I like that Rory play right there for the most part.
He's an interesting dynamic because you mentioned it a minute ago. Like, this season as a whole is an outstanding season for most players. And you have Rory. Rory hasn't won a major in 7 years. What's wrong with Rory? Remember everybody was talking about what's wrong with Jordan Spieth? Where did Jordan Spieth go? 3 years he hadn't won. Where's he at? Rory has been far better in his slump than Jordan was in his job. Jordan was missing cuts like what Ricky's doing right now. Like, what Ricky Fowler's going through is what Jordan Spieth went through. Mm-hmm. Rory never stooped that far down. He was just not winning every single week, which people are used to. He had a really good beginning of the year, and we're always going to regret the ones we don't take. I really regret not taking Rory McIlroy to win the Wells Fargo because I sat there and I was studying it during the week, and I'm like, God, this guy's playing like crap. But this is the course you take him on. But he's playing like crap, and he's going through a swing change and Bryson and all this stuff. But this is the course he wins on. I didn't make that same mistake with Webb Simpson last week. Webb's not playing well, but this is the course Webb wins on. So I took Webb top 10, cashed on him. I did take Rory in top 20 and in matchups when he was at the Wells Fargo, but I was kicking myself for not playing him at 24, 25-1. You don't get that on Rory often, and you're staring at it right now. You're getting mid-20s for a player because he is being seen as on the downside of this year when all he did was get a T12 at St. Jude 2 weeks ago, bronze medal almost the week before when, like you said, he was just there to be there.
Yeah.
The guy has not just a country, but a nation and an entire, Great Britain behind him. Mm-hmm. I think he stood up to the criticism and, a guy who changed his swing, a guy who was trying to max what Bryson was doing off the tee. He shut all that down and said, listen, I'm just going to go out there and concentrate. And the results have not been what he wants them to be, but we still have 3 weeks left of the season. And there is nobody playing right now shy of Dustin Johnson's 6 wins that does better in the FedEx Cup playoffs than Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as winners go for this event, it typically falls in the top 25 when it comes to world golf rankings. So somebody typically that's been doing really well on the tour and just in general, even on the European tour, that falls into that top 25, typically win this event. So that's something I'm looking to consider when I'm taking somebody to win. But before we get into that anyway, I wanted to get into leader after first round. One of my favorite bets, the lottery ticket of all bets, is the best sweat in all sports betting. I feel like, in my opinion, beats any bet you can make in any sport, period. I always tout golf is by far the best sport to bet. There's so many ways you can bet. One day, week, big odds. You don't get big odds like this in any other sport. If you do your right homework and everything, you can definitely cash in on some of these. So a couple guys that I really like for first round. The first guy I'm looking at is Sam Burns at six. Let's see. We got him at 60-1. He ranks 9th in the field in strokes gained total in the first round play this year with bent grass greens. The one tournament he did play at, the AT&T, he had a really good showing for that first round, and he ended up finishing second in that as well. He's capable of scoring a great first round. He's known to do that. He did it at the Genesis, big events. That was one of them as well. So I really like him here as well. The putter's been solid. The off the tee game has been okay, but we know his long iron play is fantastic, and I think he can get real hot early here. I also like Kokrak, 65-1. He ranks first in the entire field in strokes gained total in first round play just this year alone. He rarely shoots negative in the strokes gained total first rounds, but when he does, he comes back really strong. It's like when that happens, something snaps and gets in his head, and he just rises and fires, and he has a great first round. And he already just had this right now. So I really like that as well. As far as the bent grass green play goes, he's 5th in strokes gained total in 2021 as well. What are a couple guys that you're looking at?
It's funny you mentioned Kokrak. You're going to see him tomorrow in the column as somebody that I've identified that, and we can get into it more later, that I'm picking to win at 66-1 to win the whole thing. I also have him as a first round leader, but I'm going to add the stat that you just gave me to the column since it hasn't published yet. So I do like Kokrak as first round leader. Nice. It's funny that we're on the same page of that one. Bent grass plays well in the first round. I'll give you two other names. One is one of the favorites. We just talked about him. Jordan Spieth does really well in the first round, gets out there, plays this course well. I don't think he's someone I'm going to play to win, but I'll take him at 22-1 to win the first round. Absolutely. And this next one I'm going to give you, it's a preview of the column tomorrow. Total credit goes to Chris de Bear Felica, one of my colleagues who is in this column. Sebastian Munoz at 90-1 to be the first round leader. He's had rounds of 66, 67, 63, 69, and 67 in the first round his last 5 times out. So 66, 67, 63, 69, and 67, all below 70 in the first round, last 5 events. He's also gotten a couple of top 5s, so a 10-1 on him wouldn't be bad as well. But 90-1 for him to be a first round leader. Don't give me credit, give the Bear credit, but throwing that one out there. It's all a collaborative effort. You'll see it all in the column tomorrow.
It's all team effort. Trust the process. Totally understand. Mr. Flex Seal himself, Sebastian Munoz. So I had a guy on my show a couple of times, PGA Tout. He's Mr. Sebastian Munoz fan club, so he would love to hear that as well. 2 other golfers I really like for first round as well. Cameron Tringali at 80-1. He ranks 3rd in the field in strokes gained total in first round play, but he's also 3rd on bent screens in first rounds as well. His approach shot has been locked in, especially with his putter. He ranks 18th on tour with his putter, so you know that putter can get hot early. That'll help him for the first round. And finally, a guy I think a lot of guys are jumping off of that has been playing really well despite his last 2 starts, Hammer and Hank Lebioda at 150-1. This is more of just a gut feeling. I do a lot of analytics when I'm doing these bets, but we watch this every week. You know, we watch it Thursday through Sunday. We see these guys play, and I think the eye test is important when it comes to it, because I think if you go 100% analytical, I feel like you're not doing yourself justice, because you have to just get a good feel with some of these golfers. And I think Hank Lebioda can come out firing, and you're getting an absolutely outrageous number, 150-1. Still very capable of scoring low in the first rounds. He's been in positive every strokes gained category on bent grass green courses with par 71. So I'm all about that. He ranks 6th in the field in strokes gained total in the first round. So that's kind of my longer shot. So just to recap, Sam Burns 60-1, Jason Kokrak 65-1, Cameron Tringali 80-1, and Hammer and Hank Lebioda 150-1.
I'll throw in Munoz at 90-1, Spieth at 22-1. And I may throw a little pizza money on Corey Connors at 60-1.
Oh yeah, he's awesome first round.
The guy loves the first round, and I actually cashed a first round bet with him earlier this year during Connors' run that he had. I cashed one of them. It might have been at the Players. I don't remember. It was early in Florida.
Yes, it was part of that Florida swing. I also cashed on that as well. So that's funny that you talked about that because he was one of my guys I cashed in leader after first round. But while I like to sprinkle a little bit with these bets, I feel like you can put a little bit more on these top 20 after the first rounds. Sam Burns is plus 330 for top 20 after first round. Kokrak is plus 340. Cameron Tringale is plus 440, and Hank Lebiota is 5-1. So I feel like it's a semi hedge. I'm pretty good. I feel like I have a good grasp on the first round. So if you put a little bit more on these top 20s, it could definitely cover those bets and then hopefully help you with some live bets later on.
Hey, you bet it if you can get it. Like, I've never seen any book that I can personally bet here where I'm at that has top 20s in the first round. But I mean, it's pretty good stuff to bet, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it all depends on the book, where you're at, and everything for the most part. But I have a book in my area. I'm in South Jersey, the Philadelphia area. One of my books has it, so I will be rolling with that as well. Do you have any top 40 plays or top 30 plays that you're eyeing up?
Yeah, there's one guy of mine that I'm going to play him top 20 and top 40, Harold Varner III, and I'll tell you why. Not only did the guy finish T3 here in 2019, he's played it well, but he's currently 72nd in the FedEx Cup rankings, which means he's got to play well to make the top 70. That's the cut line for next week. If you don't make the top 70, your week's over. Your season's over. So this is a guy who I played this strategy last week a little bit with the few top 10s and 20s. It worked for CT Pan, finished T29 and paid off a top 40 and 30, not the 20. It won with Adam Scott. I took Adam Scott live in the middle of the event to finish in the top 5 and 10, knowing he was at 121st and he needed to play his way in. But it didn't work on the flip side. I took Ricky Fowler and Brent Snedeker in some plays to finish in the top 20. Neither one of them bothered showing up whatsoever. And those are guys who Ricky Fowler needed to play well to even get to this week, and Sneds needed to play well to put himself in a position to not have to play well this week. He is somebody that I'll get to in a second. I may roll back again. But I do like Harold Varner III as just a low top 20, top 30, top 40 guy. If you go as high as top 20, you're getting 6-1 value. 6-1 value on a guy who has to play well if he wants to get into the top 70. He may not need to finish in the top 20, but there are other ways to play him. Top 40, one of those. He's top 40 at around 2.5-1. You also look at Varner, and this isn't exactly analytics, but Varner's the guy that is always the bounce back guy. Look at his last 5 events. Miscut, T11. Miscut, T15. Last week he finished T57. So maybe we get another T11 or T15. It seems like every other event, if you look at the week by week of Harold Varner, every other week he does crappy and every other week he does well. Here's hoping that for 6-1 value on a top 20, he's someone that we can play this week who is going to be eyeing the leaderboard, not just to make the cut, because I'm going to play him to make the cut, but once the weekend happens, he needs to continue playing well to ensure that he makes the top 70. And we all know it can come down to the last putt. Justin Rose 3-putted while in contention. Justin Rose 3-putted 18 to fall out of the top 125 and get somebody else in. I don't remember who got in for him, but Justin Rose had nothing to worry about. He's fully exempt, but he is no longer playing the season. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And just as far as the Harold Varner numbers go, it is his second best kind of surface he's been putting on. He hasn't been putting that well this year overall. And honestly, his strokes gained off the tee last tournament was probably his worst that I've seen in a very long time. So maybe he can turn around that driver a little more. We always know he's a very good approach iron player. We know that's the strongest suit of his game because he stripes those irons so well. But there's a top 40 that I really like over here. He's been pretty popular of late. He's been playing on the Corn Ferry Tour, and then he's been playing on the PGA Tour. I've been cashing on him a lot on top 30s and 40s. He kind of fell off this last tournament, but I am definitely not jumping off him this time, especially with this kind of plus value, because the markets were starting to catch up to him. And it's Seamus Powers. I really love him at plus 160 for top 40. Talk about a guy that's been really taking advantage of his time in the PGA Tour. He has been outstanding. I'm just giving you right now, Barbasol, winner, T8, John Deere, Rocket Mortgage 8, and then he has 2 T19s, a T9. He's been incredible. And honestly, he played okay last week and he got a T60. His putter was outrageously bad. He almost lost 3 strokes game putting. He has not done that in any numbers I have seen since 2019. So I expect that to turn around as well. His approach game has been completely dialed in. His around the green game, tee to green, it's all been there. I will be more than happy to take over 1.5 on my money on Seamus Power because I love cashing those tickets with him because he's a guy you can definitely bank with him.
Yeah, I mean, those are the type of guys that you need to cash on that have the good iron game. You mentioned Powers. We talked about, HV3, who has good iron play and just has been putting poor lately. The aspect of betting in general, they always tell you if you want to be a good, successful bettor, forget what you saw the week before. Obviously, that is more in play with the NFL than anything, where, a team plays well one week, the line is basically tilted towards them, and everybody remembers what recency bias is. Golf's a little different. Recent form is one of the main categories we all look at, but recent form can also be overcome if you're playing a course you play well, if you have the metrics that play well. So it's not always about how they did the week before. I'm thinking of hopping back on Brandt Snedeker to do well. Verdict's still out on whether I do it or not, but I've considered it. He played awful last week, but he still needs to do well to ensure himself a spot in the top 70.
Sure.
A guy who has won the FedEx Cup before, who has played well at this course. If I were to just ignore him because he played awful last week, I wouldn't be doing myself justice. So I will probably hop back on Brandt to get a top 40, which should be good enough to have him go on to next week. I think you can get Sneds. I'd have to look up the price, but I think he was around 120, 130 to get that. And, he burned me last week. I had him in a matchup. I had him in the top 20, put him in the column. I had him in one of my daily fantasy lineups, but you can't just run because of one bad week. You have no idea why. This is a course that's better suited towards him, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I had him in a matchup last week. I was looking for a spot for him because I did really like him last week. I had him against Tommy Fleetwood, and then Fleetwood ended up just playing really well last week, so I got kind of burned by there. But as far as top 20, who are some of the top 20 guys that you're looking at?
Sure, Varner is one of them, and another one that I'm looking at, I'm going to play him top 10 and top 20, is the guy who won here 2 years ago, Patrick Reed. Captain America himself, played well, won it, led the field in shots gained, and was third tee to green 2 years ago here at Liberty National, winning by 1 shot over Abe Ancer. But he also, and I mentioned this earlier, he also played it in 2017 as part of Team USA, went 3-1-1 with the USA at the President's Cup. So he's actually played this more than a lot of guys in the field. He's also somebody who is a really good player in the playoff. Since 2014, Patrick Reed has 8 top 10s and has advanced to the Tour Championship in all 7 years. Currently, he's 22nd. He's no lock to make the top 30 unless he does well. This is a course that he's won on. He's played well here. Why am I not playing him to win? Because his recent play, no top 10 since June, a lot of travel, going to Minnesota, going to England, going to the Olympics in Japan, coming back, playing every single week. I actually wrote in the column last week, I have no idea why he's playing at the Wyndham, and then he went ahead and withdrew about an hour after I said that. Because had he played, I was going to take him as a top 20 at the Wyndham because he plays that course so well. But I'm like, I don't know why he was playing. And then, of course, he did us all a favor and took the week off, well rested. You can get him plus 350 for a top 10, but to your point, top 20, plus 160, and a guy plays this course well, plays the playoffs well, 11th in shots gained total, very good short game, iron play as good as anybody, and has played this more than anybody else, having played the President's Cup as well as playing it the last couple of times it was here. The recent play knocks me out of taking him at about 40-1 to win it all, but he's a guy that I'm going to pay attention to and potentially bet live if I think he's stroking it well. He has one of the best putting games on tour.
Absolutely, yeah.
He is hitting fairways and hitting greens. I will play him live because he's good enough to win this event as he did 2 years ago. I'm definitely taking him top 20 at plus 160, and I'm going to play him top 10 at plus 350.
Yeah, one of his best surfaces is bent grass green. He does definitely putt well in this course. The only thing I'm concerned with is the driver. I know off the tee typically favors driving distance, which doesn't really fit into Patrick Reed's game. But being he was missing, he's a -2 on strokes gain off the tee and almost two strokes off the tee minus as well for the 3M Open. That's my only concern. I know the stat itself kind of fluctuates too much with the driving distance, but that was my only concern with him. We know he's a wizard around the green. He is fantastic. I don't care if he had somewhat of a bad day with around the green one week, but I know he's going to bounce back because he's just that crafty and that good. And I think you're going to have to be good around the green here, especially if you hit it into the rough around these areas, these bunkers and all the fescue and everything like that. So I could definitely see where you're going with that. Two top 20s that I'm looking at, Sam Burns, plus 230. I'm really bullish on Sam Burns this week. I know he hasn't won the big one yet, but he's been playing really solid. His approach game's been really good. Around the green has been fantastic. His putting has been also really good as well. This isn't one of his strongest surfaces, but I'm not too concerned with that because I feel like he can adapt to that because he's been so good with that. He's one of those golfers that you're like, he can win it. He has the talent, and then once he starts winning, then it starts rolling and stuff like that. He won over at the Valspar, I believe, smaller tournament in Texas. I mean, he got the monkey off his back finally, but now I feel like this is a really good spot for him for top 20. I absolutely love it at plus 230. And a guy that's been contending constantly at really good events, Scotty Scheffler, plus 120. I absolutely love him here. If you want to see what he has done of late, it's been absolutely incredible. He's been like the new Tony Finau. He's been like top 10 machine.
Every single week. And it's one of those guys where you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to take him. And then when it's Saturday and he's T3, you're like, why didn't I take him? Every single week, the guy gets top 10 finishes. He was what Corey Connors was doing earlier this year and what Tony Finau's been doing for the last 5 years.
Absolutely. And I'm looking just at his off the tee game in general. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like his last 12 events, he's been in all positives in strokes gained off the tee. Absolutely outrageous. His iron game is sick. And then everything else has been really good. His around the green game, pretty solid. He's had one or two like kind of really bad around the green games. But overall, I mean, 8th, 3rd, 7th, 14th, 8th, 8th, 2nd. I mean, he's just been all over the place. And I think the books know this. And I think at plus 120, I think the books are telling you he is going to be in the top 20. And I'll cash over 1-1 on a guy. I feel like that's going to do really well.
Yeah, I think you're getting good value there. I think that's a good play. Another name I'll throw out there for a top 20 finish because of how he did last week. And he really was only 1 or 2 shots away from actually winning the event is Webb Simpson. I like Webb. He has a strong iron game. He's good around the greens. He sprayed it a little last week, and obviously it's a course he knew extremely well. Yep. You're getting plus 160 on Webb at, here's a guy that you wouldn't be stunned to go out there and win the event. We can do it, and he's played well here before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into the top 10s. I'm going back to the well a little bit with top 10s. Sam Burns, 5-1. I think he's going to be contending this week. No shocker. I've been pretty much talking about him, and I'm pretty much betting him in almost every category at this point because I feel like I could cash with him a bunch here, honestly. Abraham Answer, plus 275. He has been outstanding. Talk about a guy that needs to be accurate off the tee. That doesn't really have a lot of distance, but he is super accurate off the tee. He putts it very well. I mean, he's been lights out on approach. Putting has been everything's just been working well for him. I mean, his results speak for himself. Winning WGC, huge for him. I don't know if that's me something that kind of goes in the back end of things. I just think he's just playing so pure and so great. I think he's up for the challenge there. I really like him at plus 275. And a guy that you like as well, Jason Kokrak, plus 550. I think he's a guy that can actually cut this course a little bit with his driver, and his putter's good and his approach shot's been fantastic. He's just been doing everything right. And I think he's a guy with distance that can be smart about it. Sometimes I kind of weary with Bryson because I feel like he tries to beat courses more than adapting to courses. And I think Kokrak can kind of get to that point. When he won that one tournament against Jordan Spieth in Texas, where he was pretty much the villain of all villains, he rose to the occasion. I was shocked he won that, honestly, because everybody was on Jordan Spieth there.
I think you're getting very good value with Kokrak, and I'm going to take it a step further. I'm taking him at 66-1 to win. I'm going to be playing him. I didn't mention top 20 a few minutes ago, so I figured we would get to the wins, but I'm playing him at plus 250 to win. Here's a guy that I think you're getting the value because he has had nothing but higher than a T12 since he won at the Charles Schwab in May. So he missed the cut at the U.S. Open, which was a popular play for him, and he was a top 10 favorite last week and missed the cut. So the recent struggles on some of the big stages where people were all over Kokrak after he took down Jordan Spieth, like, now he's going to come out and win all these events, and he hasn't. So I think that's why his value is where it is at 66-1 plus 250. And what you just said a few minutes ago, would you get him at top 10?
For Kokrak, plus 550.
Plus 550 top 10. He has 2 wins this year at the CJ Cup and Charles Schwab. Both were on bent grass. That's what we have here, as you mentioned. The one thing that has hurt Jason over the first couple of years of his career is putting. He's 6th on tour in putting this year, 25th overall. He's safely into next week at 12th in the FedEx Cup standings, so he should be okay to advance to Atlanta for his 2nd ever tour championship. But this is the type of guy who played T12 here in 2019, T9 in 2013, all 8 rounds under par, 3rd in shots gained over that time, as you mentioned earlier. He has all the intangibles to get it done, and you're getting value on him because of his recent poor play. If you throw that out and say he plays well on these type of bent grass green courses, then this is a good value play for him. Another guy I want to throw out there for not only a top 10, but I think he can win it. He came within a 4-foot putt of winning just a couple of days ago. Adam Scott, 121st in the FedEx Cup standings a week ago, moved up to 82. His work is not done here yet. He needs to get into the top 70. He won here in 2013, followed up with a 5th place finish in 2019, one of the better iron players on tour. Obviously, the putter lets him down. I think Adam Scott is a victim of what you have seen with COVID, having stayed in Australia, got COVID himself, didn't come back when the tour resumed last summer because of visa issues and COVID issues, stayed in Australia for the longest time, finally came back at the end of last year for some of the majors, didn't do well. And then this year just never got it going. Did finish T10 at Torrey Pines earlier this year, but his only other top 15 finish was at the Honda Classic before last week's runner-up finish, losing in the playoff. I think you've missed the Adam Scott of old. I think he may be back, and he's going to have to be back if he's going to advance into the top 70. Has played well here before, desperate to play well. I think he can win it. You're getting 40-1. I wish I had taken him about 4 days ago. You probably could have gotten him at 60 or 70-1.
Yeah.
But you can also get him in the top 10 at plus 350.
No, I love that. And you brought up a good point about the whole FedEx Cup standings and everything. That's going to be really important. And he's won here. I personally didn't play on my card, but I absolutely love the play that you have there. As far as winner goes, I got 4 guys I punched a ticket in for. Webb Simpson was one of them at 35-1. Talk about Mr. Accurate on the fairway. He is that guy right there. Typically a really good putter as well. The approach game was dialed in, if you will, I believe. It was definitely a good approach. Yeah, he gained almost 8.5 strokes gain approach, which is outrageous for him. The best that I can possibly see and start as far as his database goes. So I feel like he's getting into a groove where he needs to be at. Jason Kokrak, I was able to find him at 65-1. We talked about him. I think he's a guy that can use that distance to his advantage, and the game has just been on point. And this is almost the Rory rule almost. I saw Justin Thomas at 25-1. I could not help myself. I'm sorry. I'll be your Huckleberry Finn. I know his putter stinks. It sucks. But God forbid if he actually has an even putter and he stripes it like we know he can stripe it, I am not missing out 25-1. I'll burn that ticket if it doesn't cash. More, no problem doing that. But honestly, you might call me crazy. I think it's Sam Burns week. I saw him at 60-1. I think I'm in the minority, but that's okay. I think Sam Burns wins this thing, and I think he has the talent to do it.
I will tell you that just before it came on the air, and we'll talk about it in a minute with our DFS lineups, I actually was looking for one guy, having no idea you were going to be all over Sam Burns. I was looking for one guy in a certain value play at a certain dollar, and it was Sam Burns who I put in there. So I put 2 lineups together, 12 guys, most of which I've already mentioned tonight. Yeah. One of those 12 was Sam Burns, more for what number he was as opposed to how much you love him. I already mentioned I'm taking Kokrak at 66-1. Played Adam Scott at 40-1. We touched on Rory McIlroy earlier. I really like Rory this week at 22-1. And this last one, I mean, we're 45 minutes into this program, and neither one of us have mentioned arguably the best player on tour. Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, I know.
All the guy does is lead the tour in shots gained tee to green,
Right.
shots gained approach, second in greens and reg, which we talked about. The winner the last 3 times at Liberty National was in the top 6 in greens and regulation, 4th in scoring average, 6th in total shots gained, won the Open Championship, tied for 4th at the Olympics, tied for 4th at the U.S. Open, almost won the Memorial. And oh, by the way, he doesn't have the best odds. He doesn't have the second best odds. He doesn't have the third best odds.
I know, yeah.
Collin Morikawa is not getting any respect from the sports books. He's the 4th best odds. You can get the guy who just won the Open Championship at a course that is listed as a comparable course at 18-1. I looked at that. I go, what am I missing? I didn't expect him to be the favorite. Jon Rahm's the favorite. Everyone loves getting Jon Rahm. But Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, those are guys that are listed ahead of Morikawa. As you scroll through the odds boards, you're like, is there a better iron player in the game than this guy at a course where you need good iron play? What is Morikawa's one weakness that you've seen in the 2.5 years you've seen him? It's been the putter.
Yeah.
He switches to the claw putter grip. And the guy knocks it out of the park at the Open Championship. Goes over to Japan on no rest. Almost wins the bronze medal. Like, the guy should be player of the year, and you can get him at 4th best odds on the board. I'm playing Morikawa all over the place. I know it took us 45 minutes to mention him.
I know, it's insane, but
saving the best for last. But it's just, and then someone might pop in and say, but he's only played Liberty National once, and he finished T53.
Doesn't matter.
He won at St. George's, playing it for the first time. He won at the concession for the World Golf Championship, hadn't seen it before. He won at Muirfield Village, not for Jack's event, but for the Workday Open. Never seen it before. PGA Championship he won at Harding Park in San Francisco. Had never played it before other than when he was a teenager. And then he won the Barracuda event on a course he had never played before. So all 5 of his wins are on courses he had never seen. So he's seen Liberty National once. That's one more time than the other 5 wins.
Exactly.
I like him this week. You're going to be like, oh, well, he's one of the favorites. You're going to play a favorite somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not playing Rahm. I'm not playing Spieth other than top 20s. I'm going nowhere close to this version of Dustin Johnson. I'm going to be playing, of all the favorites, I'm playing Morikawa across the board. I'm going to play him in matchups as well. He's not getting any respect there either.
No, and it's crazy. And you're 100% right. I love Collin Morikawa. He's one of my favorite golfers on tour because of that nasty approach shot. And he's a killer. And now you're kind of talking to me that 18.5. I was looking at the 18.5 to 1 number. I was like, well, it's kind of low. And I'm like, but I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick here. Sure. The WGC, he just had an even approach shot number. And then actually at the Olympics, he was actually in the negative in approach shots, which is not usually like him. So maybe there's a trend downwards. I would never bet against that on Collin Morikawa because his approach shots are so good. Maybe this means he's going to shoot +10 for his approach shots, but I can never blame anybody. I don't care what course it is. Collin Morikawa, you take him. I think it's a great play regardless. I just was looking a little bit more value, I guess, as far as these plays go for guys inside the top 25 world rankings that I think that could make a little bit of noise and just value-wise, but Morikawa is just fantastic.
Now, like, I've always been a fan, but he's not been someone that I play often because I never really could figure it out. At the Open Championship, I had pre-event, I had Jordan Spieth and I had Louis O, both at 20-1 for Spieth and 30-1 for Louis O. Had them both pre-tournament. They're sitting 1-2 all week. This Collin Morikawa was sitting at 3rd. Obviously, on Sunday, I played Morikawa at 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, whatever it was, because you got the top 2 guys on the board. You're going to have to play number 3 to hedge yourself. I sat there and watched Sunday at Royal St. George's, which was the last event that I worked at ESPN in golf, and it was maddening to just wait for Morikawa to miss a shot. You needed him to miss a shot so you can get your 30-1 or 20-1 payoff, and it just never happened. The guy doesn't miss shots. He's going to miss that putt. Nope. He's going to miss that approach. Nope. He never played the course. We're talking about a Open Championship course that people were shooting 80s on, and this guy is just
locked in.
So never doubt him. Sure, he may not have the best value in the world, but at 18-1 for a guy that I know can win, I'm going to take him. And, before you even look, what do you think his odds are in a matchup versus Jon Rahm? Without looking, what do you think his odds are?
Jon Rahm's a favorite, so I'm probably going to say he might be like a +110 maybe.
plus 155.
Oh my goodness.
Colin Morikawa plus 155 versus John Rahm. I mean,
that's an autoplay.
Absolutely. And it's like, I looked at that and I kept looking at it. I'm like, that can't be right, but it is. Now, John Rahm may go ahead and win this event and you're like,
Sure.
shoot, I lost. But like you said, burn the ticket. It's okay.
Yeah.
155, I'm in.
That's absolutely outrageous. And speaking of matchups, I was looking at a couple matchups that I like, honestly, as far as it goes. I feel like the Brooks Koepka market has really been downplayed a lot. He's even money against Victor Hovland. I'd be more than happy to take him even money against Victor Hovland. And I'm a big Hovland fan. I played him in all futures for majors. Unfortunately, didn't cash, but I do think highly of Victor Hovland. And honestly, you're laying a little bit of juice, but Jordan Spieth minus 129 over Bryson DeChambeau. I think Bryson's just sitting pretty right now, and I don't feel like there's any urgency with him right now as far as his game goes. I think Spieth is just locked in right now, and his play has shown he's been one of the best players on tour. And I think he could play really well at this course. And I think he's going to play really smart. And I think that's important when it comes down to matchups. So those are two matchups that I'm looking at. What are you looking at?
I agree with Spieth over Bryson. You know, I'm fading Bryson across the board, just like I was fading Spieth across the board earlier this year. And I fade Fowler every time I can. I also like Rory over Bryson at minus 110. I like Rory over DJ. Rory's an underdog to DJ. I like Rory overall to win this event, and DJ still getting love. I think because if people who won't study it well will see that DJ won at minus 30 last year, this very event. Hello, it was a different course. He was up in Boston, not New York.
TPC Boston. Yep.
He is the defending champ at minus 30, but this is a different course. I like Rory in that spot. I do agree with you about fading Bryson. I will be taking Spieth. I'm going to be playing Patrick Reed at plus 120 over Hideki. And the two other ones I'll give you, and this has been here since before the show. I did take Sam Burns plus 115 over Finau.
Okay.
I put him in my lineup. I went and looked for him. I got him at plus money long before I talked to you. And the other one, you hit on the guy earlier as a top 10. You're not going to like this because of the guy that you just picked to win. But I like Abe Answer at plus money versus Justin Thomas. And, you know, I'm a big Justin Thomas fan.
Sure.
But there is something missing.
There is. I agree 100%.
It may be the putter. I know he went ahead and won one of the toughest events of the years of the Players, and he had the grandfather stuff early on. But you put that in the past, we're months removed. The guy hasn't played very well anywhere. It's not a Rory plays well, plays bad, plays well, plays bad. It's not one of those, like, it's not Fowler missing the cut every single week. Right. But Justin Thomas has been sitting here going T22, T27, T19. He's not paying off because you're not taking Justin Thomas top 20s. There's no value in that.
No, zero.
He's not even getting those because his name is better than the value that you're getting on the betting. And unless Justin Thomas is T3, T4, T5, you're not getting paid off. The T23s, and he is a sweat to do a top 20, which are things that I never thought I'd say about Justin Thomas. Has played well at the Northern Trust overall, not necessarily this course, but you mentioned Abe Answer earlier, runner-up here 2 years ago at Liberty National to Patrick Reed. I think this is someone who can beat Justin Thomas.
No, and I agree. If that's something that you're looking for against Justin Thomas, I just don't want to be left out if I can get him at a 25-1 number with JT. That's my only concern. Believe you me, I'm not crazy about what's been going on with the putter, and the driver hasn't been the best either. But if there's a 25 number, you won't see that often for JT ever. So it's just one of those tickets I have to punch. And if I miss out on it, like a Colin Morikawa where he was a high number, it's like the same kind of deal. Like, I just won't be able to live with myself.
You're not wrong. I was ashamed, and you probably were in the same boat. I know a bunch of buddies, including my cousin, shout out to my cousin, who took Brooks Koepka at 50-1 months ago in March when Koepka was coming off his knee surgeries and hadn't played much. And when he had come back, he had missed some cuts, really didn't seem to give a crap. And he was 50-1 at the event that he won. Brooks Koepka, 4-time major winner, was 50-1. That should have been an autoplay. But because Koepka hadn't shown crap since the majors, everyone's like, well, you know, he's injured. And he was 50-1. So I do trust that your 25-1 on Thomas is probably your autoplay version of my Rory, as you mentioned earlier. Your
Absolutely.
guys that, when those guys get to those prices, you almost got to play him. And I think Morikawa should be 10 or 11-1, and I'm getting him at 18.
Yeah. And that was the same kind of thing with Brooks. I ended up playing him at the PGA Championship, and he was such a big number. I just had to take him, and I didn't hedge because I was like, you know what, Phil wins, then so be it. It's history, and history hit, and I'll take that bet any day of the week, with that kind of value. So I decided not to hedge that go around, but I can live with it because it was kind of crazy history at that point. But I want to actually get into a little DFS with you right now. So let me bring this up real quick. All right, there we go. Nice. All right, so what I wanted to do with you here, what I do with a lot of my guests in general, I go with each category. I want to see one play, one fade that you're looking at. So if we're looking at the 11 to 10K range, Jon Rahm, DJ Spieth, Xander, Kyle Morikawa, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy. What guy are you playing, and what guy are you staying away from?
I'm pulling up the list right now as we speak, so give me 1 second, but I can probably tell you the answer is already going to be Colin Morikawa. I'm taking him everywhere else, so of course I'll take him, trying to see where he's at. Sorry, give me a second.
Not dude.
He's 10,400, so we're looking at the 10,000 range. I would play either Morikawa or Rory, and those are the two guys who actually I am playing in different lineups, and I would stay away from Dustin Johnson only because it's not the Dustin Johnson that we saw at Augusta last November. He's struggled. He's been spraying the irons, and he hasn't been making the putts. And, there's no guy on tour who has a better A game right now than Dustin Johnson. But Dustin Johnson is not even giving you his B game right now. No. So I'm not spending 11,000 now. I say this every single week when I fade guys. Am I going to be stunned to see Dustin Johnson wins the Northern Trust? No, of course not.
No,
when he has his A game, he can win. But I'm not. Dustin Johnson is just as likely to miss the cut, and you can't have that for $11,000. I don't think Morikawa's missing the cut. McIlroy's not missing the cut. I'd be stunned if Rahm, Spieth, or Xander missed the cut. Koepka's kind of a wild card because it really determines whether he gives a crap or not.
Sure.
But Dustin would be the one guy I would stay away from.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with DJ. That's the guy I'm fading, especially for that price market. And I mean, this 10K range is pretty juicy. I mean, I'm almost at the point of playing Brooks Koepka here because I feel like he's a guy that's not going to be really highly owned, shockingly enough. I think he's a guy that can run up the birdies, but I think I'm right there with you as well. Kyle Morikawa, he runs up birdies like crazy, and you're going to need that in DFS. You can get all the bogeys you want, but if you get those birdies, I mean, that's what it's all about. So I'm looking over at the 9K range now. We got JT, Bryson, Hovland, Answer, Schauffele, Cantlay, Berger, Matsuyama. Who's the guy you're playing? Who's the guy you fading?
I would play Answer there at 9,400. I know you like JT, but I'd play 9,400 for Answer or Scheffler at 9,300. My third would be Berger. I always love Daniel Berger, 9,100. Not a lot of course history there, but the guy has unbelievable iron play. And fade, if you go back and look at my last 100 lineups of daily fantasy, I'm not sure I took Bryson DeChambeau in any single one of them because the courses that he's low-priced on, low-ish, are courses he does terrible on. And the courses that he does well on, he's $11,000, and I don't want to waste my time. So I'd be fading Bryson, staying away from him. You're getting somewhat of a cheap price. He's normally in the 10-5 range. I just don't trust him. And you mentioned he's on cruise control. It's just not all there with Bryson, so I want nothing to do with him.
No, I totally understand. As far as Berger goes, he's one of those guys. We have golfers that just screw us constantly. Berger's that guy for me for whatever reason. I took him in the PGA Championship. I thought he would play really well. I had Jonathan Coachman on, and he was pretty much saying like, oh, what kind of shot does he shoot? I'm like, well, he shoots that fade shot. He's like, yeah, the wind doesn't work out well with it. And I still liked him regardless of the win, and he ended up getting cut. So, I mean, it was a good analysis by him.
Coachman on. He is my favorite blocker of all time for flag football intramurals at ESPN.
Oh, strong.
Give me the option back and let me go right behind Jonathan Coachman all the way to the end zone.
Beautiful. So he's doing a little chop block. He's ready to go.
It's great. And then, the one time that I get tackled and I get up and get in the guy, so whoever tackled me's face during flag football, we're about to go toe to toe. Coach steps in there and I'm taken care of. So love the coach.
Oh, absolutely. He's a big guy, right? So he can definitely back you up.
Worked in wrestling for a while.
Yep.
WWE's Lived nearby I haven't seen him in a while, but used to golf with him a lot way back in the day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the really good guys, awesome guy. Had him on before, really good. So that was just a little thing with Berger there. He gave me some good insight about that. I should have probably took his advice on that at that point. As far as the 9K range goes, I think Scotty Scheffler is just a birdie making machine. I think, he gets into those grooves, and I think for DFS, I think that's a really good spot for him. And I'm right with you with fading Bryson. I think we're pretty much consensus with a lot of these fades, which is, I think it's a good sign. And I think when people watch this, they should see that we've been pretty in key with these kind of fades. And I think that speaks volumes. So I really like that as well. The 8K range, we got Webb Simpson, Harris English, Paul Casey, Patrick Reed, Cam Smith, Adam Scott, Corey Connors, Tony Finau. We got Neiman and the great Sam Burns. Who we playing? Who we fading?
This is always my favorite area every single week I usually start here. When I got to fill out my lineup, I start with the 8s and I see how many of the 8s I can get in without crushing with 6s or 7s and seeing if I can get a 10 in there. I would rather play 3 8s than a 10. You're just getting good quality, make the cut guys, especially if you're trying to do a double up and you just want to get upper half. Obviously, if you're going for the big million, you got to get a couple of those guys out there that nobody else has. But I load up on these guys. Obviously, I love Patty Reed this week. I'm playing Adam Scott as well, so I'll have a couple of those guys in there. Try to fit Webb in if you can. As far as fading, I don't play Tony Finau often. I usually fade him when I can. I'm not sure this is the version of Tony Finau that we're used to playing. But really, man, Chris, I like everybody. If I could pick all $8,000 players, I would. And I've done that before. Where I picked, five $8,000 players and throw somebody else in there.
Sure.
These are all good players. Probably
they're all. It's a tough board there because all these guys have been well proven. We got some winners here, like a Harris English, and you got some guys that have just been playing really well here. If I were to look for somebody that I think could go off the ropes a little bit, I think Joaquin Niemann could be one of those guys. I know his putter's been pretty decent, but his around the green game has not been that good. That's a guy I think maybe I would fade possibly. Corey Connors, that putter hasn't, we know his putter stinks, but his approach game's unreal. So, and he's been great off the tee. So I don't know if that's really a guy I really would want to fade. So maybe to be kind of contrarian, I would say kind of Joaquin Niemann, but I'd be hypocritical if not taking Sam Burns because I think he's going to do great things here. And I don't think he's going to be owned that much because I think a lot of people are going to be looking past at him and he can run up the birdie. So I'm all about that.
I would agree there. And like I said, I played Sam Burns in one of my lineups already, and I'll be making some others as soon as this call is over. But that's just, you can legitimately get $6,000-$8,000 guys in there if you do it the right way. It'd be tough, but it's doable.
Yeah. So we're in the 7K range now. We got coming off his fresh win, Kevin Kisner, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Sungjae Im, Terrell Hatton, Jason Kokrak, Ian Poulter. The list is huge. I can name a bunch of guys, but that would take forever. But it always goes down to Woodland, Charlie Hoffman. Who's a guy you're playing? Who's a guy you're fading here?
I'm going to play Kokrak, as we discussed earlier. I do have Kisner in one of my lineups. It's a day late, dollar short with him, but he does play this course well, so he's someone that I like. If I was going to fade one guy on this list, it would probably be Russell Henley, only because of the disaster of last week. He should have won it. He had it in his grasp. It's very hard to rebound from that. I'm not big on rebounding from something like that unless you're somebody like Adam Scott who can rebound from a missed putt. Looking further down the list, I really don't like. I actually was looking for guys to play that we talked about this earlier that were near that top 70 that needed to play well to get into next week's field. Like, these are the guys right here: Bubba Watson, Kevin Streelman. Those are guys that are around somewhere between 68 and 75, but they've never made the cut at this event. They're not playing well, and there's a reason why they're 68, 69, 70th in the FedEx Cup. They are where they belong. So I'm not going to load up a lot of these guys, nor do I want to have anything to do with them. So I would probably fade a guy like Bubba or Russell Henley.
All right. So I'm looking in the 7K range. Let's see who we got here. I'm with you there on Kokrak. I think he's a guy that could play really well. I talked about him earlier, Seamus Powers. I think people are going to forget about him. I think he's going to have a really nice showing here. And for his value, I really like that. And a guy I'm fading, he's kind of like the analytic breaker over here, is Stuart Sink. He's been playing unbelievable the beginning of the year, but I think Father Time is finally getting to him. He's been hitting the ball further than he has been all in his entire career, which is really outrageous. It must be the ping driver, who knows what it is, but he's been playing unbelievable. But I feel like he's trending in the wrong direction. I think that's just wear and tear on the guy. And he's a guy that I was trying to get on late and I was getting burned constantly. No more. I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm done with the Stewart Sink thing. When you look at the analytics, it looks great for him, but they don't put in father time, and I think it's kind of winding down for him. So I am more than happy to fade Stewart Sink.
I try to keep emotion out of gambling and picks and playing, but Stewart Sink has burned me twice in my life. He burned me when he beat Tom Watson at the 2009 Open Championship, costing what would have been one of the greatest sports stories of all time. Can't hold it against him. The guy won a major. Congratulations. But then I go back to this year's Open Championship, and I had mentioned earlier that I had Spieth, I had Louis, and I had a couple of other guys that were up near the leaderboard. And especially after Thursday when Stewie Sink had gone off with a 66 and played well, after Thursday's round, I was 64th in the Millionaire. 64th.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And I think I was in the $500 category, and all I had to do was get my guys through. The only guy that wasn't through was Brandon Grace. You flip to Friday, and you're intently watching because you got 1-2 on the leaderboard. You just need to get all 6 through. Grace rallied to get under the cut line, and then he got a snowman on the back. I'm like, all right, you didn't have Grace yesterday, so you still got the other 5. You may not win the million, but you're still fine.
Mm-hmm.
When you have some downtime, go look at Stewie Sink's back 9 on Friday of the Open Championship, which included 5 bogeys and a triple bogey 8 on the 16th hole, which effectively knocked me out. Now, I actually still cashed with 4.
Wow, with all that going on,
finished 2 and 3, but I know what I could have had in Stewie.
Oh, sure. So. Yeah, that's the daily fantasy world is such a hard. I don't even want to look at it till Sunday. I feel like because I've had weeks where I'm definitely cashing this. I'm number 43 and I'm just everything's good. And then Sunday goes haywire and then I end up not cashing. And I'm like, how did this happen? And it's I don't want that heartache. When I put these lineups in, I'm not even going to look at them. Sunday, I'll see where I'm at and just hope for the best.
Smarter than me.
So 6K range, you could obviously fade people here, but give me a guy that you're really liking in this 6K range.
I am going to be playing Harold Varner III. I told you I liked him to finish top 20, top 30, top 40. He's sitting at 6,700. He's an anchor on one of my teams that allows me to get a couple of the higher guys. If I were to play another one besides him, Carlos Ortiz is not a bad one. I know Charlie Hoffman's on that. He's actually 7,000 when I first thought he was 6,900. I do like Charlie this week and might be playing him. Then Brent Snedeker, 6,600 for a guy who's won the FedEx Cup before, who's played well at this course. He's been playing like dog crap lately, but he is $6,600, and he's far better than a lot of the guys around him.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's a guy that I really like, he's a guy I usually don't like for the most part, but I think Matt Kuchar can actually play pretty well here. He's been playing pretty well for the most part. He's just been really solid. I think this is the kind of course where he can kind of maneuver around and kind of just work his irons, not try to do too much. The putter is pretty decent. He's a guy I feel like that can do really well here as well for the most part. So that's kind of a guy that I'm looking at in the 6K range. If you want to be a little contrarian that people might forget about, I think Matt Kuchar might be able to be that guy. But I'll tell you what. Let's make a lineup. Let's see if I want to make a lineup for a double up. Nothing crazy. So give you an idea what kind of contest I'm going to get into. This isn't going to be the contest, but I'm going to do a double up, try to build up the bankroll a little bit. And I'm going to give you first pick. So who do you got for your first pick?
Any range or what?
Any range, whatever you want to pick. We'll work with whatever we pick.
I'm trying to pull my lineups up that I did. Give me, I'm looking at my main lineup, and I love these guys. Give me Kokrak.
All right, Kokrak. All right, I like it. Okay, that's at 7,700. I'm going to the well. It's Sam Burns week. We're going to throw him in there for 8,000. So we have an average of 8,575.
Give me Patty Reed.
Patty Reed. Okay. At 8,600, we're at 8,566. I'm going to see if I can help out the salary a little bit. Let's do Let's do a little Seamus Powers for 7,000. We're going to do Seamus Powers for 7,000. We're at a 9,350 average with 2 golfers. So we can get a good guy here if you want to go low and leave it up to me. Totally up to you. Whatever you want to do.
What's our average?
9,350.
9,300. I lost my screen, so I'm looking at yours. So if I throw Rory in there.
Throw Rory? Okay. Sounds good for 10,000. That leaves me with 8,700. 8,700.
Still some good guys.
I'm gonna leave stuff off the board because I feel like that's usually a really good approach when it comes to that. I'm gonna go with your guy, a guy that had the heartbreaker that really needs to move up there. Give me Adam Scott for 8,400. Let's do that. So we're gonna leave 300. We got Jason Kokrak, Sam Burns, Patty Reed, Seamus Power, Rory McIlroy, and Adam Scott. That's our lineup.
And that looks very similar to the main lineup I put in the double up. The difference being I went lower than Powers and got Varner, which allowed me to go up from McIlroy to Morikawa. Here we go.
All right, beautiful. Beautiful. Sounds good. I'm definitely locking this in for a double up, build up the bankroll. So we should be good to go. So that will do it tonight. I appreciate you being on with me today. Hold on one second. There you go. I appreciate you being on today. I know you're a busy guy with everything going on late into the night. You got kids and all that good stuff like myself. But thank you again. You can find David at dbearman ESPN. He's going to have his articles for college football. I can't wait to check that out, as well as along with his PGA plays. And you can find him on Twitter and everything ESPN, ESPN Chalk. And I want to thank you again for coming on. I think this was really insightful. It's going to go out to more people, and it's going to be good stuff. And I think it's going to be a good listen.
Well, thanks for having me. I love talking golf. I can do that every single day. And like you mentioned, D. Behrman, ESPN. And tomorrow morning we'll have our Chalk article, and we're going to start our college football content with the SEC tomorrow. So you'll have best bets from Doug Kazarian, Joe Fortenbaugh, Tyler Frielstrom, and the cast of many, including David Hale and Bill Connolly. They'll all be in there tomorrow for SEC best bets. We'll have ACC best bets Thursday, Big Ten on Friday, and we'll get to the other guys later on.
All right, sounds good. You'll hit my Pac-12 eventually. My Arizona Wildcats are looking atrocious, so not a good season for the Cats. But thanks again, and let's go make that money.